Okay, we're going to call the Senate Judiciary to order. We have 4 bills we're going to discuss today: Senate Bill 34, 35, 28, and 29. Welcome, and Mr. Clerk, please call the roll to establish quorum.
Chairman Jones?
Here.
Senator Shoemaker? Here. Senator Rocca? Here. Senator Kolbeck? Senator Beda? Present. Mr. Chair, you have 5 members present, a quorum.
Very good. Senator Shoemaker makes a motion to adopt the January 20th, 2015 committee meeting minutes. Without objection, the minutes are adopted. And we'll first take up 2 bills from Senator Green. We're very familiar with these bills, and we've voted on them before, but there's been a few changes, and we're ready to go. So, Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, especially for taking this up so quickly. I appreciate your support of the legislation, and I just want to give a little bit of background on what the bill originally did. I think it's been maybe a year and a half since you guys voted it out. So, but basically, this bill creates a true shall issue concealed pistol license system, and it eliminates the county gun boards that's been in effect since 1927. And I will add, there's no county gun board left in the country. All of them go through similar processes that we're gonna talk about here today. It ends the eyeball test discretion in statute used by gun boards for years, and requires the licenses be issued based on statutory qualifications. It modernizes the CPL statute, streamlines the process, and reduces administrative costs. It consolidates the major CPL responsibilities into 2 agencies, the county clerks and the Michigan State Police, taking full advantage of the existing infrastructure and experience in clerks' offices while making MSP's workload commensurate with their portion of the fee. Basically, in a nutshell, a person that wants a CPL goes to the county clerk and gets a packet with all the information that they need. They go fill out the application, they get their fingerprints done, they bring that back to and they have their class. They bring all that back to the clerk sends the fingerprints to the state police. The state police runs the background checks and notifies the clerk that they both cleared. The clerk issues the CPL. It limits the times needed for an applicant to go in and spending a lot of time running back and forth, taking off work. It eliminates 3 of your highest paid folks or their staff from sitting around a room all day going over them, and in fact they go over them, and most of the times they can't disqualify them anyway because of the laws that was passed in 2000. It also brings uniformity to the CPL system in all 83 counties, standardizes the process, the rules, and the fees for applying for and obtaining and renewing a CPL, regardless of which county you live in. And the reason for that is many counties did it different. They still did not adhere by some of the laws. There was some vagueness in the laws that allowed them to do things a little bit different. And it delivers more value for Michigan citizens' hard-earned dollars. Unfortunately, it passed the Senate with a large majority. It passed the House, 85 aye votes, and when it got to the governor's office, he vetoed the bill. A couple things that we have changed from what the governor talked about in his veto message. Number 1, the bolded language on page 22 of Senate Bill 789 was removed as a result of the governor's veto. I will read that, and it says, if that order includes a restriction that the applicant is not allowed to purchase or possess a firearm. In a nutshell, certain groups claim that the addition of that language would allow someone with a PPO against them to obtain a CPL. Claims false. It's based on a failure to take into account the totality of all state and federal laws addressing PPOs and possession of firearms. The language that we put in there was included to reconcile CPL law and the revised Judiciary Act, which governs PPOs and was properly vetted through law enforcement ever before being included. Federal law prohibits someone subject to a PPO after a hearing from purchasing and/or possessing firearms while the PPO is in effect, regardless of whether a firearm restriction is included. So I'm only saying all this to defend myself a little bit on the differences that I had with the governor. I believe was very comfortable with, was vetted by numerous attorneys. Obviously, the governor disagreed with that. The other change that we made in it is we eliminated Section 1. Section 1 was taken out just before the House voted for it in a different sub because it conflicted with another section in the air gun bills. It created a signing order discrepancy. I'll not go into that, but it had something to do with sending two bills to the governor, and one had to be signed before the other one had to be signed. So in order to make it so there was not a signing order, we took Section 1 out and put it into the air gun bill, which both were promised would come out and would both be sent to the governor. Well, the air gun bill did not get sent to the governor either, and so that section was left out. We believe that section needs to be in there. And if we leave it out, it could give the governor a legitimate reason to veto Senate Bill 34. The changes in Section 1 reflect an AG opinion and Court of Appeals decision that a definition is reflected elsewhere in the bill. Hence, my concern that failure of House Bill 5450 would trigger a veto of 7089. Our second change in Section 1 codifies another AG opinion and court decision and adds the 10-year standard so it meshes with LEOSA, Law Enforcement Officers Safety Act at state and federal levels. This second item wouldn't concern me for signature of Senate Bill 34 because it isn't integral, but the first item could be a concern. I'm sure all you folks with all your law degrees understand all that. Those are the two changes in Senate Bill 34 from Senate Bill 789. Shall I go over the amendments?
Why don't we open up the questions?
Okay.
I think that's best. I know what you're doing there. Do we have any questions about the bill or the amendments? Senator Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the sponsor. And I apologize, I didn't know this bill was going to be on the agenda until today, so it was kind of added. And I really was intending to talk to my clerks about this. And when it was through last time, I had a number of organizations that were concerned about domestic violence. And a lot of the social media and a lot of the comments about this bill, when it was on its way, the governor were addressing those issues or those concerns. And I know it sounds like from your language here today that you've addressed that with some of the language you've put in there. I was just curious if you've had an opportunity to work with any of those organizations that were criticizing this legislation when it was working its way through to see if they're comfortable with it. And also, while it does sound like you addressed the governor's concerns, whether you've had conversations with the governor on this or his staff that they were okay with this legislation.
We have gotten the message that they're okay. They've sent us some things they'd like some changes to. I want to be really careful about making too many changes. And you know, whenever you draft legislation, sir, I had a staff person that worked for almost 2 years on this bill alone. And every time they turn around, he was reading the bill, the substitute, changing words and doing this. State police was in my office constantly, making sure that they approved with all the language that we put in there. We had attorneys in my office looking at everything. In fact, one of the groups that was complaining about it actually was sent the language to on that issue, and we have a email. I'm not going to bring it up, but certainly a much discussion over it, and they were very satisfied with the language.
And thank you for that. And I know, believe me, I've done the same thing with a number of pieces of legislation we're continuously reintroducing. It's kind of like rolling that ball up the hill and having to come back. And I love your quote about the state police being constantly in your office. That sounds
Constantly.
that sounds like a headline in a newspaper. I don't know if you want to see. But, I do appreciate your work on that. It was just kind of put on the agenda today, so I want to kind of back with some folks, but I'm happy the direction you're taking on this.
Let me just add one more thing. Whenever you try to make changes to legislation of this nature, there's a whole lot of people that want less guns, and they'll look at everything they can find to find something wrong with the bill that they're going to disagree with. Frankly, I'm convinced that what we did here will give anybody more protection and defense of themselves than anything else that we could do. And I'm very, very satisfied that what we did is more than helpful to those people that are trying to get PPOs.
I think, Senator Green, to clarify it for Senator Beda, everything on the PPO has been removed from the bill, correct?
Yeah, it's gone.
It's
Yeah.
gone.
Anything we're
So
and let me
there's-
tell you, Senator,
Yeah.
you're going to have to fix it. I would encourage you to do it, because there's still a problem with checking that box, and judges today and attorneys differ on that, because the federal law and the state law is different. That's what we were doing with that language, fixing a problem, not giving anybody any more access with PPOs. So I'd suggest one of you yourselves take that issue up and fix it, because it needs to be fixed. But we took it out. No reference to that at all.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Okay, Senator Rocca.
Really quickly, you mentioned the changes to the air gun and BB gun portion of it. Could you explain, just and clarify, with the amendment that Senator Jones is offering, what this bill will do to change the regulations on air guns, BB guns, that sort of thing?
Well, it strikes a reference to the air gun package, and the language was a carryover from last-minute discussions during the end of session last year and does not belong in this process, because this is only a reform bill, not a...
So, I mean, the amendment does seem to change the definition of air gun or BB gun, or at least remove it from being a definition of a firearm, right? Okay.
Yeah, we're striking that.
Thank you.
Maybe Senator Jones would know a little bit more about that.
Okay, and Senator Colbeck has questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question. One of the provisions that's struck out in this is the ability for applicants to appeal to the county board if they think that a decision was rendered in error. I don't see any sort of appeal process documented in the current law if something comes back from the state police that may be in error. Is that an oversight, or is there something I'm missing in the process that that's not necessary?
Senator, wouldn't the same law be in place currently if you're unhappy with the county board, you appeal up to a judge, and you'd be able to do the same with this? You haven't changed that in any way.
Actually,
Well,
if I could, Mr. Chair, in section on page, there's actually a section of the bill on page 9, line items 19 through 21. That's strucken out explicitly as that appeals process to the county board, but I don't see any insert that talks about an appeals process to state police. So that's the source of my concern.
That change was made because of the state police. They did not want to give someone, I can't explain that to you, Senator. I will get in trouble sitting here without any notes and without even the bill in front of me with trying to explain it. Again, no,
Senator,
maybe somebody's here that could.
the state police are here to answer that question.
Oh, good. Bring them up.
That's what we will do. We will invite up
I started to say
Sergeant Amy Dieter of the Michigan State Police. And the state police are in support of the bill package.
Good afternoon, Senator and Mr. Chair and committee members. Happy New Year. And I'll get right to it, touching on the question that Senator Colbeck asked. That was struck out, sir. You're correct. It's a twofold process. The process that Senator Jones alluded to, where you can still appeal certain things to the circuit court, is still in effect. We specifically, in this very long process, asked because we wanted to make it a truly shall issue model, meaning that MSP did not want to be the appellate body. So depending on whether the permit has been, whether the applicant gets denied initially or they get their permit revoked or suspended later on down the road, there's an appellate process. Part of it, depending on what actually went on, part of it involves the county clerk. The bulk of it falls to the circuit court. And without knowing the numbers off the top of my head of the number of appeals statewide last year, the number is fairly low at the circuit court level, so we would anticipate those numbers would probably still be equally low.
Thank you. So Sergeant, as I said previously, there's still, the appellate part of the law is not part of this. That's still in a different part of the law.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, very good. Okay, we have the amendment that Senator Green wants. It's my amendment. I'll make a motion to adopt the amendment to Senate Bill 34. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll to establish the vote.
Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Senator Shoemaker? Yes. Senator Rocca? Yes. Senator Kolbeck? Yes. Senator Beda? Yes. Mr. Chair, there are 5 yeas, 0 nays. The amendment is adopted.
Very good. I entertain a motion to report Senate Bill 34 as amended to the floor with the recommendation the bill then pass. I'll make that motion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll to establish a vote.
Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Senator Shoemaker? Yes. Senator Rocca? Senator Kolbeck? Senator Beda? Yes. Mr. Chair, there are 4 yeas, 0 nays, 1 pass. The bill is reported.
Okay, and I believe this is one of the bills we wanted immediate effect on because it was previously voted on. So I will make a motion to recommend immediate effect. Please call the roll.
Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Senator Shoemaker? Yes. Senator Rocca? Yes. Senator Kolbeck? Senator Beda?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there are 5 yeas, 0 nays. The immediate effect is recommended.
Very good. And I would like to request a clean substitute from the Legislative Service Bureau. We'll now go on to Senate Bill 35. I'll entertain a motion to report Senate Bill 35 to the floor with the recommendation the bill then pass. I'll make that motion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Senator Shoemaker? Yes. Senator Rocca? Yes. Senator Kolbeck? Yes. Senator Beda?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there are 5 yeas, 0 nays. The bill is reported.
I'll make a motion to recommend immediate effect. Seeing no objections, immediate effect is recommended. Very good. We will now go on to Senate Bills 28 and 29. Senator Beda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and if it's okay with you, I'll just make my testimony from here. This is
Senator Beda, I'm sorry. I've made a mistake. I do need to read these in. We have Dana Gill of the Michigan Association of Counties opposing the bills, and we have Brad Benzing of the Shooters Alliance of Firearms Rights supporting Senate Bill 34.
I'm assuming the two, those are the previous bills.
Yes, I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure that those were read in. My error, I missed the cards. Those are now read in, and so please continue with Senate Bill 28 and 29.
I appreciate that. As the opposition came up before I even had a chance to open my mouth.
No, not yet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And actually, all kidding aside, I've really enjoyed working with you on this package of bills. You're a sponsor of one of them, and I'm a sponsor of one of the other ones. Originally, my office was approached by the Wayne County Assistant Prosecutors, Raj Prasad, who is here today, and also one of his colleagues who's no longer with the prosecutor's office, Amy Somlanka, last year, with proposed legislation that would enhance Michigan's current animal cruelty statutes, MCL 550.50 and 750.50B. Prosecutors Prasad and Somlanka are co-founders of the Animal Protection Unit and handle all animal abuse and cruelty cases for Wayne County on a total volunteer basis. The prosecutors are finding it difficult to adequately address problems with cases that involve a large volume of neglected or cruelly treated animals in their county. Another issue that's addressed in this legislation that's facing prosecutors is what to do in instances where a perpetrator is using, threatening a companion animal to further terrorize their human victim in domestic violence cases. The prosecutors are finding that the current statutes do not adequately address the increasing pattern of violence used to terrorize civilians in our community. This package of bills did pass unanimously of this committee last year, and in fact, it passed the Senate on November 13th, 2013, with 38 yes votes. There is one friendly amendment that is being proposed that I'll be presenting here, but I'd encourage support for these bills in committee today. And I know we have somebody from the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office that is willing to testify and give some background and some more information on the bills as well.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, the amendment was proposed by the retailers, and with this amendment, the retailers are happy with the change. And, you know, this is on the upswing, as the prosecutors have said. In fact, there was a case in Lansing in the newspaper today about somebody torturing a cat in front of a spouse. So this sort of thing does go on. It's important that we address it. Do we have any questions? Okay. Bring up Wayne County Prosecutor's Office and the State Bar Animal Law section.
Good afternoon, everyone. Raj Prasad on behalf of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office and also the Animal Law Section. I was told by the Animal Law Section I have to state the position expressed of the Animal Law Section is the position of the Animal Law Section only and not the position of the State Bar of Michigan. I think that's something that, as lawyers, we have to state. But this is on behalf of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office as well. And as Senator Bita stated, and we thank Chairman Jones, Senator Bita, for your support in this. As part of the Animal Prosecution Unit, myself and Parisa Kiani are two of the volunteers that work in this unit above our day jobs. I'm normally in homicide. Parisa works in child abuse. It's these cases that we see that sometimes give us great pause, especially when you see targeted, torturing and killing of animals, especially when they're used to control the victim family members. And we've seen every year cases after case. And then what we realize, the animal statutes themselves don't allow for any real protection of these victims, of the human victims or the animal victims. And what we're trying to do is create a mechanism in the worst of cases to allow judges and prosecutors to actually protect the human victims and to create some sort of real, and I hate to use the bad pun, but the real teeth in the legislation and in the statutes to protect the human victims. That's where these statutes come from. That's the genesis of it. And then, of course, the other horrific situation that we sometimes see, and sometimes I see on the bad end of it, working in homicide, which is those that abuse animals for purely malicious intent that leads them on a path of violence that takes us to the cases that I unfortunately have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So thank you very much.
I have nothing to add at this time.
I just want to thank you and commend both you and the bill sponsor. We had a situation in Kalamazoo where a guy beat his girlfriend with a puppy and
Yes.
killed the puppy, and that's just, it's horrifying, and it shocked me that he did not get more time.
And in that case, the prosecutor even asked for prison time, and at that time the judge chose not to and gave him a jail sentence and probation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Invite up Jill Fritz of Humane Society.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Jill Fritz, Michigan Senior State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. I just wanted to thank you for recognizing the correlation between animal abuse, domestic violence, and other offenses, including violence against people, property crimes, and drug possession, disorderly conduct. The Chicago Police Department did a study in 2004 that revealed what they called a startling propensity for offenders charged with crimes against animals to commit other violent offenses toward human victims. 65% of those arrested for animal crimes had been arrested for battery against another person. A study questioned 36 convicted multiple murderers, of whom 46% admitted committing acts of animal torture as adolescents. They also asked about seven school shootings between 1997 and 2001. All of them involved boys who had previously committed acts of animal cruelty. And police know very well that in homes where animal abuse is a problem, other issues are often concurrent. Pet abuse is one of the 4 predictors of domestic partner violence. Researchers have found that as many as 83% of women entering domestic violence shelters reported that their partners also abused and killed a family pet. Another study found that in families under supervision for physical abuse of their children, pet abuse was concurrent in 88% of the families. So we really appreciate that SB 29 in particular recognizes that abusers can manipulate and control their victims through threatened or actual violence. And, you know, we saw that, as you mentioned, graphically illustrated with the case in Kalamazoo recently. In fact, the MLive story on that case quoted the victim, the woman, of how much mental distress this caused her, psychological distress, which is directly addressed in the penalty section of this law, so we're very grateful for that. Also happened in Kalamazoo a couple of years ago. We helped with a large dogfighting bust that the two of the suspects that were arrested and convicted, one had an outstanding warrant for murder and the other one for possession of child pornography. So there's very obviously a connection with not just animal abuse, but serious crimes to society. So I just wanted to thank you for this legislation and for helping make our community safer here in Michigan.
Read in the cards. Mike Pendy, the Prosecuting Attorneys Association, is in support of the bills. Bill Zagman, Michigan Humane Society, in support of the bills. Mia McNeil, Protect Michigan Dogs, in support of the bills, but would like to work with the sponsor on a couple of changes. John Lindley, Best Friends Animal Society, in support of the bills. See no further cards in front of us. Senator Beda, you have an amendment to address the retailer's concern. Why don't you give us a brief description of what it does? They were concerned about tethering an animal for grooming.
Yeah, it's one of those issues when you do a bill, sometimes you don't think of there might be some special application there, and in this case there is. We have a provision in there dealing with tethering, and for pet shops or groomers when they use a shorter tether. So this allows for them to continue to do that. So it's a very simple amendment. It says this subdivision does not apply to the operator of a pet shop if the tethering of the dog occurs while the dog is being groomed on the premises of the pet shop.
Very good. I'll make a motion to adopt the Beda amendment to Senate Bill 28. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Jones.
Yes.
Senator Shootmaker. Yes. Senator Rocca. Senator Kolbeck. Senator Beda.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there are 5 yeas, 0 nays. The amendment is adopted.
Very good. I entertain a motion to report Senate Bill 28 as amended to the floor with the recommendation the bill then pass. Senator Shoemaker makes that motion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Jones.
Yes.
Senator Shootmaker. Senator Rocca. Yes. Senator Kolbeck. Senator Beda.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there are 5 yeas, 0 nays. The bill is reported.
Very good. I'd like to request a clean substitute from the Legislative Service Bureau. And now on to Senate Bill 29. I'll make a motion to report Senate Bill 29 to the floor with the recommendation the bill then pass. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Jones.
Yes.
Senator Shootmaker. Yes. Senator Rocca. Yes. Senator Kolbeck. Senator Beda.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there are 5 yeas, 0 nays. The bill is reported.
Very good. Seeing no further business before the committee, we are adjourned.